winter. Llandrindod Wells. Just kidding, it's the summer. Hooray! More sunny weather in Wales. Let's fire up the barbie. I just arrived at Joe Botting's Fossil HQ in Llandrindod, and we're gonna look at some fossils and rocks and all that good stuff, and hopefully get a bit of harp playing recorded as well for the podcast, and generally see what it's all about. So I'm not going completely blind into the podcast. I kind of know a little bit about what's going on. Let's see what it's about. Here we are. Okay, so this is Joe with his, what do you, it's not, is it a harp?
It's a gujang.
A gujang, there we are.
Ancient zither.
Cool. Okay, and then we've got is it conventional harp, would you call it?
It's a Celtic harp.
Celtic harp, there we are, next to him. So, that's excellent. You can have it, just do what you want. I'm just going to set up this guitar.
Fine, yep.
Nice. So I'm just getting this thing in tune.
Ah, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds pretty in tune.
Yeah, it's just about there, isn't it? Hold this tune all right, actually. It's not a bad guitar, that one.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah.
Cool. I thought you were going to do something with a bit of singing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do it.
Which you can absolutely
Yeah.
crack on. Let's get a bit of.
See if that works. We might need the microphone.
Well, you don't have to.
No, I'd quite like to, but it's just
Yeah.
a question of whether.
Well, position the mic where you want it, and we'll
Might.
see how it sounds.
You might need to have to come up towards me a bit more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the harp's a bit loud in comparison.
Yeah. Okay.
So try that.
This would be where another one of those mics would be helpful. Like stands, wouldn't it?
If you have two of them, it tends to feedback all over the place.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, you're obviously a man who's done this before.
Painfully, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Do you know what? Before we do this, let's get this set up as well, because I was annoyed that I couldn't get a decent angle without interfering with everything just then.
You can move chairs and things if you want as well.
Let's just see if we can dangle that down there. I'm gonna set this rolling. Oh, it's already.
But a week since down the glen the trampling horses came, 500 fighting men with all their spears aflame. They laughed and clattered as they went, and round about their way the blackbird sang with one consent in the green leaves of May. Never again shall I see them pass. They'll come victorious never. Their spears are withered, all as grass, their laughter's laid forever. And where they clattered as they went, and where their hearts were gay, the blackbirds sing with one consent in the green leaves of May.
Amazing.
That more or less work?
Sorry?
More or less work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll have. I reckon that would be a really good way to end the podcast. We'll have your instrumental one start.
Yep.
And then that one, and I think that would be quality.
We've got various studies around the place. This is where we come in, unwrap the material, do some preparation. So this is 2 days of field work at the Castle Bank site.
Okay.
And so it's sort of hammering all day in the sun, wrapping things up in tissue and then sort of carefully unwrapping them. And then quite often preparing them under a little sort of work microscope I got with little scalpels, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we looking at here?
a whole selection of things. This is just whatever turned up on the day.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of things I'm not quite sure what they are, so there's question marks on the labels. We've got things like maybe a worm. We've got trilobite with its stomach preserved over here.
Oh, wow.
With some soft tissue. And none of these have yet been looked at in the big microscopes upstairs.
Right, okay.
So what we're going to do is take a few of these and go and have a look.
Cool. Let's do it.
I think we should. So, because we're not employed as academics, we had to crowdfund.
Right.
Because we're not, the grants aren't accessible to us. We just can't apply for them.
Yeah.
And so we thought, that's never going to work. And then we thought, why won't it work?
Yeah.
And then we got 18,000 quid's worth.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Good grief.
So these are actually better microscopes than a lot of universities have.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's quite amazing, really.
Yeah. I just realised I've been recording for I don't know how long by accident.
Well, it might be useful, you never know.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I'm going to annoy everyone watching this because I'm bouncing between portrait and landscape. But there we are.
Okay. Hopefully that works. There's some I prepared earlier. There's always stuff going on.
This is your Blue Peter moment, mate. You finally made it.
So if you're wondering what this sort of thing is,
Yeah.
it's actually soil samples with mites and springtails in. It's part of what I do to make a living is identify mites.
Right.
For
I was wondering what you did for a living. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah, cool.
So little bits of consultancy work, but it might take a week or two to analyse that sample and find out 50 species that might be in it.
Right.
And a lot of them use this microscope to start with and then onto a biological slide microscope to get the fine detail.
Yeah.
And you're sort of counting hairs on something 0.1 millimetres long.
Good grief.
So, what we got in here?
So I guess this is going to show what it... Yeah, exactly. On the screen. That's handy, isn't
Exactly. This is basically a photomicroscope system, so we can image whatever we want to look at. And here we go. Okay. So this is fairly small. It's actually a rolled up trilobite.
it? Right.
So the head is... So a trilobite, normally you see them as the skeleton.
Yeah.
And you've got a lump in the rock, which is basically the skeleton. And on this side, the skeleton's dissolved and you're left with carbon. So this line down the middle is actually the soft tissue of the thing.
Right, okay.
And it's slightly awkward preservation. Quite often we get a lump in the middle of the head, which is where its stomach was.
Yeah.
And what I was really interested in the field here are these brown bits sticking out to the side, which might possibly be legs, which is something we've been waiting for a long time, because we've seen a lot of these trilobites, but the soft tissue is very poor. We've got a colleague in the National Museum in Cardiff working on these. This is one she might be interested in. You can use cross-polarization as well. So this basically cuts out reflections. And gives a slightly different angle, but yeah, I think this might possibly be our first traces of legs in these things.
The big question is it a boy or a girl?
That I couldn't really tell you with this level of detail.
Cool. So how old is this?
This is 461,462 million. It's maybe 461 and a half.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's a tiny little thing, and
Let's
it's a
just
juvenile as well.
see how small it is in real life.
Yeah, this is a relatively large fossil, but it's that brown mark
I
there.
can't really see because the light, but...
Hang on.
Oh, there we are, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that... Point to it again, could you?
It's this brown areas in there that you can see.
It is dinky, isn't it?
That's one of the bigger fossils that we have to work with.
Good grief.
Worm question mark but I haven't looked at it under this microscope yet, so we'll soon find out if I was making it up entirely.
What's the sort of the media or whatever it is sitting in there?
It's a siltstone, so it's basically underwater, maybe 50 to 100 metres underwater, and you've got little slurries of silt and mud flowing down the sides of a volcano.
Yeah, right.
And picking things up as they go along. And there you can see a tiny black squiggle. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, just got that. Good.
Tiny weeny.
Let's see what that looks like. Because that is about 1.5 millimetres long, I think.
Yeah. And what are all these little balls? Silica balls, I think.
Yeah, it's just little glass or plastic in this case, actually. Just,
right.
Just so you can hold it flat. There's a depth of field on these.
Oh, that's a good shout. Yeah, okay.
And you try to get something in focus over the same, in focus at the same length all the way.
Yeah.
So this is what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
That's peculiar. It is not a normal fossil. The first thing to say.
Right.
You don't normally get anything like this.
Why is that?
Because it doesn't have a skeleton.
Okay.
This is something soft-bodied.
Is this what we call a trace fossil, is it?
No. Trace fossil would be things like trails and burrows and footprints, and they're
Right.
also extremely common.
Okay.
This is an actual animal which would normally rot away.
Yeah, okay.
So this is why Castlebank is so important. It preserves everything that was alive here, and down to tiny little, entirely soft things that should have decayed within hours, days, weeks at most, and yet they're there. They've all been fossilised.
Right.
And we start to zoom in on this. You start to see there's quite a lot of detail here. So the question is, what exactly are we looking at? A bit of a sort of a tube-like structure, or at least a cuticle. So something relatively tough.
Yeah.
Which is a silvery bit.
Yeah.
And then there's this bit sticking out the end, which is quite a lot softer. And yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. You can sort of play around with the polarization. This looks like it gets very soft at this end.
Hmm.
And there is a fossil that we get here which is composed of a little animal in a little silvery tube, which is quite common. But this doesn't seem to be the same thing. The way it's preserving is a little bit different.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's something different.
Yeah. But it's cool to get an idea of what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
At least on this local scale.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to get to the bottom of these. It can take days or weeks under the microscope to really understand a specimen.
Yeah.
So it's not the sort of thing that just, unfortunately, we can see something and give you the answer straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the boxes are upstairs, but these are some of the ones we've been working on. So we've got a whole box labelled Paleoscalichids, and that's the smaller one of them.
Yeah. You need a degree just to pronounce these things, don't you?
So that's one type of worm. These are various worm phyla. Some of those are the only fossil examples of an entire phylum of animals anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I can see why you're kind of excited about this stuff, and why it's significant as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically an entire window on evolution that we don't have anywhere else. It's completely unique to here.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get across how revolutionary that is.
Okay.
It's like not knowing anything much about ancient Egypt at all.
Yeah.
Then finding Tutankhamun's tomb. It's that sort of level of increase in knowledge.
Right.
Just at this time, there's almost nothing that is known about how ecosystems were evolving.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely radical.
I feel very privileged to be here and talking to you about it.
Oh.
And this is another strike for Llandrindod Wells.
It is.
Centre of the universe.
Well, we were organising an international paleontology conference that will be coming to Llandrindod next year.
Yeah.
And the main part of the reason that people want to come is to see this site.
Cool.
And to understand the context and the history of the area.
Yeah. Thanks for showing me your harp, Joe. It's been really amazing to see and hear that stuff. And it's also really cool to see your fossil stuff and get an idea of what you're working on.
You're very welcome indeed.
Thanks, Joe.